So something happens to your family.
Yeah.
So knock on wood. And what ends up happening, now you're looking and you're calling a company. So you call a company, you're emotionally distraught right now. So let's you're crying, completely upset. You just lost a loved one. So now you got to make a phone call to get somebody to clean it up. Okay, and I have a story that I'll talk right after this and explain the severity of it. You call a company, you have no idea. You're not calling 6 companies. You're not getting estimates. No. You want the first company that will come out and call you.
Yes.
So you'll call. They're like, oh, yeah, we'll get a crew out there in an hour. Okay, great. They come out. Ma'am, we're here to help you. Oh, really? Thank you so much. Yes, we're here to help you. Sign your name here. Your insurance will cover this. We'll get this done. Mm-hmm. Okay, great. They do the job. Not saying the bad job. They did a good job. Okay. But now here's your bill.
Yes.
$60,000-$70,000. And you're like,
That's crazy.
And not everyone will be able to pay it. I can't pay
Barely
it.
anyone.
Now, there's companies that know they won't, if homeowners call insurance, and this is what I was going to say with my story. An elderly woman called me and said her brother died on the top of the steps. And she called me because a family or friend, somebody finally gave her my number, because she called in a company and they came in at like $26,000. And they said insurance wasn't covering it. That they called insurance and insurance wasn't covering it. And that she needed 50% deposit to clean it up. So say $13,000, $14,000 she had to come out of her pocket. So she said she was cleaning it and scrubbing it, passed away on the top of the steps, and was scrubbing for the last couple hours, and she emotionally could not handle this.
Oh my God.
I said, ma'am, don't worry about it. Let me send one of my techs out and let's look at the job and see what we can do. So I get out there and we look at the scene, maybe $4,000 or $5,000 at most. Like very easy job. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay, ma'am, we can do this. And then I'm like, why did your insurance say they did not cover it? Right. I don't know. That's what the company said. I said, okay, call the insurance company. I said, hey, did you say, no, this is covered? We never got a call.
Oh, so just
oh my God.
And I'm like, yes. And I'm like, ma'am.
At that moment, come on.
It's so easy. Well, if you think about it, how easy it is. Now, let's look at, you knocked on wood, but say you have no knowledge. You have no experience. How easy is it at that moment to take advantage of you?
Very easy.
Extremely. 100%. Like easy.
I'm vulnerable as it is. You're knocking me down at the worst time possible. I'm going to succumb to you for sure.
So in a case like that, they looked at a woman, elderly, and said, oh, this is easy. And she was like, I can't afford that. So not only did she say, now she's traumatic because she is sitting there scrubbing, cleaning up her brother this whole time. And if you look at inner cities, if you look at vulnerable populations, they need the help the most, and there's no protection for them.
And people, immigrants, people with language barriers,
none. Exactly.
Like, so New York is a place for immigrants.
Exactly.
Philly filled with immigrants.
So now when we look at homicides, we look at the VCC, the Victims of Crime Compensation, which I brought up before with you before we were talking. In the United States, every state has a VCC, so Victims of Crime Compensation, which means any family member or anyone that's a victim of a crime is entitled to some financial obligation that the state will help them with, right? Okay. New York City, they pay $2,500 for any type of victim for crime scene cleanup. New Jersey, outstanding, $4,000. Philadelphia, $500. Well, Pennsylvania alone, $500. So
Philly.
Yes, but on a project I did, the normal blood cleanup ranges anywhere from $3,500 to $5,000. That's on average.
Yeah.
So you're talking, when I did my study and I called every state, VCC state, and I said, what's this? So I did my homework. I did all my research. There was only 7 states that had enough in coverage to cover a basic $3,500 cleanup. 7. Everyone else did not.
Yeah, because your New York City's $2,500.
Yeah. So exactly. So $2,500 should
do some
or a lot. Yeah. But yeah. And then to fill out that application, you have to be informed.
Who knows even to contact these people?
Yeah, exactly. Right. So the prosecutor's office do, but your local police departments don't.
Right.
your EMTs, your firefighters, they don't know anything about it. And most police, even prosecutor's office, they're more involved in solving the murder, not helping the family.
No.
They want to solve the murder. You know, they think that brings closure, but they don't understand that now the family has to go in and clean this up in the aftermath. So what ends up happening is I get a lot of calls and I'm like, did you reach out to the VCC yet? And they're like, what's the VCC?
I never heard about it before today.
I'm like,
me too.
Exactly. So they cover funeral costs. They cover psychologist. They cover multiple avenues, relocation fees. So I did a triple homicide in South Plainfield a couple months ago. And they ended up, after talking to the family, insurance paid for the apartment, like the interior. And then we billed the VCC and we helped the woman move all her stuff into a new place.
You're a very good human being.
So
nice.
No, but like,
No,
think about it.
true.
Like, just knowing that information, she's like,
It means everything.
yeah, because she's sitting there going, yes, we cleaned up the blood, but now she's like, I have to move all of this.
Right.
Like, what am I doing? So if you think about it, Joan Canty, which is a PhD, she her husband was murdered. She has a really good podcast, a really good book on the aftermath of murders. You know, really good author. I've talked to her in the past. She talks about this a lot, about being re-victimized during this transition of not knowing. This is a step of the grievance process of going through any type of suicide into, I'm dealing with the suicide now. The dad is like not even wanting to talk to us because he can't get over the fact that somebody in his family committed suicide.
Yeah.
So you sit there and you're like, you got to give a lot, but you don't want to really like, okay, sir, but we have to move on. Like, we have to get this addressed. So that's another issue in this industry. A lot of people, like, normally, like, somebody doesn't pay me $1,000, $2,000 because we did a service and they just say, I'm not paying you. Can I really go after them?
No, like, I know what you mean.
Yeah, like, I have to, but how?
You also have to pay
like
your bills, but then how?
How?
Yeah.
Like,
True.
go into court of law and say, you know, and that's a big issue in this industry is how do you do it compassionately? You know, all my trucks are marked up and there's a big debate. Should it be not marked up? Should it be marked up? Like, should we have our logos on our trucks, what we do to bring attention to where we're at, or should we just have plain white trucks? And I have mine marked up. Like, on all my trucks, all my vans, if you look from like a skyscraper, and I do this in New York just for the fun of it, I have an outline of a dead body on all my trucks.
Oh, you
on
do?
the top.
That's so cool.
On the top. Yes. So no one can ever see it unless you're looking down.
Yeah.
But I know it's a sense of humor. It might be inappropriate, but you know what? It's something that, you know, you know.
To know, like, what is this?
Yeah. So we do, and we bring all our marked vehicles. And I said, that's because you've had EMTs, you had fire, you have had police there. Everyone knows what happened.
Right.
Yeah.
If anything, I'd rather know everybody in the neighborhood that's getting cleaned up correctly.
Yeah.
And that there's no threat or there's no issue there. That's how I look at it. But then there's some other companies out there that say, no, don't mark it up at all. And I'm like, but why?
Yeah.
Like, you know, you can, like, I don't write, hey, you know, or there's people that now are doing billboards. But then there's somebody, and I think I've talked to you this is insulting. This is upsetting. If I saw the person in the room, I'm not violent, but we would have words. She believes in live streaming her cleanups.
Oh, shit. Oh, no.
Yes.
Ooh.
There is a massive lawsuit right now in Florida because...
Is it because of social media?
Yes. Well, think about it. She has, like, I think,
what?
like 4.5 million company.
Yes.
4.5 million likes on her TikTok or Instagram. So she gets paid for that. Okay.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah.
However, she's getting sued. And again, I can't speak out of terms. Like, I don't know the whole case. But what the headlines are saying is she videotaped a suicide. And the kids of the deceased watched the cleanup. So the family is suing her for that cleanup. Like, for the traumatic events.
I agree.
And it's on display.
Exactly.
For you and people to see.
This is the issue on what we see in this. How can you say... You can say it's for educational purposes all you want. No, it's not.
That's crazy.
No,
want
it's
to
real.
know.
It's
You
not.
can make a fake scene up. Come on.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Make
Out
one
of
up then.
Yeah.
If you're going to really educate, like I will bring, so I'm teaching next week, as I told you.
Mm-hmm.
I will bring real cases into that classroom, but they're in that classroom knowing. And I still say, hey, look, if you can't handle this, please step out when I present, when I do anything. I'm presenting into an area of knowing people that want to get into the industry, people
Right.
that want to learn.
Yeah.
So I'm teaching
Yeah.
that. So that's understandable.
Not regular
But
people.
don't say, because 90% of the people are not looking at education. They're looking at the gross,
Right.
gruesome. They want to know,
Absolutely.
oh my God, what happened? And there's pages that I belong to. Like there's one, Decomp Stains. It's a Facebook group. And that just posts pictures of bodies. And I'm in there not because I like it. I'm in it because sometimes I've stepped in and commented and said, look, this is how it should have been done. Like to kind of make it look somewhat like, okay, don't give misinformation out.
Right.
Like, don't try to, like, but a lot of people just want them likes. People just think it's cool.
Yeah, don't make
Absolutely.
a mockery out of crime scene.
Exactly.
No.
Like,
someone's
people-
pain. No.
And so the S540, which is a certification,
Mm-hmm.
which I was a census body. It's on a second revision. It's from the IRCRC. It's actually for crime and trauma scene cleaners. It's what I teach. It's I'm an instructor now to teach it. I was until this year. But I can teach that class. It's a 2-day long class. I wish it was 5 days, but the association has deemed it to be 2 days. I'm fine with it. Especially if I teach it. But the 2 days, it gives an entry level knowledge of going in. But the good thing is on that new S540 standard written in it, the new one that just got published states that you cannot use video for commercial or personal gain.
Shit.
So I said, because now that is a guideline throughout the industry.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So like that court case now could utilize
Yes.
that standard and say it's not accepted in the industry.
Yeah.
Okay, that's why I promoted when I sat on that committee. I said we need to write this in because so many people are using that scene as a traumatic. Oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. Oh,
Sorry.
okay, no, I'm good. Okay. It's what happens when you run a crime scene cleanup company.
Yeah. That's fine.
Well, it's like I said, 3:30 this morning, a police department called me and said they got blood in the back of a cop car. So I had to dispatch the crews. So like with me, and this is just my personality, from 6 at night until 6 in the morning, I'm on call.
Oh, you do the night shift.
So yes, I do the night shift. We don't do a call service, so the phone calls come to me no matter what.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't do a call service. It comes right to me. So the reason is because I believe the first 10 to 20, 30 seconds of interaction with somebody will determine their outcome.
Okay.
Which means if they do not feel comfortable, a call service is going to say, ma'am, I'll take your information. Okay, I'm going to call somebody and they'll get right back to you.
Yeah, I know what you
Where
mean.
I can sit there and say, and normally I'm like, oh, sorry, you just woke me up. Give me 2 seconds. Let me just jump up, push my daughter or my son to the side that's sleeping in between me and my wife, and let me get into my office. I walk in my office. I'm like, okay, what's going on? Okay, so she has to explain it to me once. I know what's going on. I can relay to my supervisors and say, okay, ma'am, I'm going to get a dispatch crew out. Or if it's bad enough, ma'am, you know what? I'm on my way.
Oh, you do?
Yes. Oh, yes. If it's depending on the case, I still go out. Like I'm like, okay. Like Tuesday, right before Tuesday, I worked a 36-hour shift.
Yeah.
Now the whole shift wasn't me on jobs,
Sure.
but I basically
Up the whole time.
yeah, I was up the whole time doing jobs. The biggest job was I got called out at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I got home at 8 a.m. to get my kids on the bus, to help my wife get my kids on the bus, and then I went right back to work. Like
Ooh.
that was like, yeah.
Oh.
And in an industry like this, that's another way, and another problem is PTSD.
I was
certain
about
things,
to ask
yeah.
that question. Yeah. How do you deal with it, and how does your team deal with it?
So decompartmentalizing is very important. Is understanding work is work. Surprisingly not, I've learned how to, but there's still cases that hit me hard.
Of course.
Yeah.
Me and my wife have words like where I will say something to her on the way home and she'll basically know, like,
Oh.
Daddy, I'm taking the kids away.
Mm-hmm.
Daddy needs a little bit time alone.
Mm.
I'm a Lego guy, and everyone laughs at me. I love Legos.
That's fine.
For some odd reason, it puts me at ease.
Meditation, yeah.
So, if I'm having a bad day, I'm basically stopping at the Lego store on the way home. Or we have like kind of sets ready to go. And my wife's like, there you go. It's already ready. I built a lot, spent a lot of money on Legos. Great for the kids. They're like, hey, look. But that's my way.
Yeah.
But I try to explain people, we have debriefing. So and we actually recently, I had a woman, we don't have kids often, but when we get kids, they're hard.
Sure.
And we've been getting a lot more family suicides. Where the dad or the mother will kill their significant and then take the kids with them.
Mm-hmm.
We had like 3 in a row, like within like 2 weeks. And it was like, I was like, crud. And like one of those, I went on all of them, but one of them, the computer screen was still open. And the girl was in my daughter's class, like not class, but in grade. And the same homework I was doing with my daughter was basically on the screen from like a week before. So like,
I'm so sorry.
It's that emotional
That's
trigger.
crazy.
And I'm like, well, during that 3 weeks, one of the girls I worked for said, I'm just not cut out for this. And I'm like, I completely understand. Like, no matter what I can do, we have psychologists on standby. Whatever we have to do, we're there. But I can't help the jobs we're on. And it depends on the workload. Like, I exercise every day. Like, you really have to have an outlet.
Yeah.
But sometimes you can't. Like, sometimes we're running 48, we're running around the clock and we can't, like, we're just so busy. And then when we get downtime, you need to know how to shut it off.
Right.
Like I'm gonna say, like, the soldiers come home, TikTok, Instagram videos, I cry. Free Willy, I cry. You give me any emotional, like, happy ending, it triggers. And my wife will look at me and be like, like, she just turns away. But like, Disney movies, I mean, I'm a big Disney fan too. And my daughter, Daddy, are you crying? Nope. Like, it's just because we have to let it loose.
Yeah.
And I hold it in, and you can't respond. And even when I talk in class sometimes in certain situations, when I talk about cases, I'll get teary-eyed. That emotional and everyone's like, oh, I'm like, that's how serious this isn't like, there's not an on and off switch.
Right.
Like, there's just not. Like, no matter how you look at it. So PTSD is a huge aspect, is knowing how to decompombilize and knowing how to separate yourself. And thankfully, with my dad and growing up as an EMT and certain things, and I've learned how to do it as my Legos.
Yeah.
When I was in college and I used to do it, it was country line dancing. Like, I love country line dancing as well. So I always had an out.
Right.
And, one of the biggest things that we look at when we bring in new hire is finding their out.
Very true.
And one of the best ways is, when I was talking about them 17-year-olds, is understanding that component. Psychological first aid is a great component, is understanding how to debrief each other, understanding how to pick up each other, but at the same time, understanding why we're there. Because it's a lot easier to separate when you're understanding that you're there helping somebody.
Right.
Very true.
If you're just there to do a job, it's like, But if you're there understanding that you're there helping, you might be able to handle that better, knowing that you're actually there taking that stress off of somebody else. But then you're still at home, you still need to know.
Yeah.
And thankfully I don't drink. But we've known people in this industry, we know alcohol. I know owners that are alcoholics. I know people that they don't do it the right way. I can't say anything about it. It's not my company.
Sure.
But there is definitely, and so when I get my doctorate, that's actually something I really want to look into. When we get regulations and I really get a platform for our industry, is seeing how the scenes affect workers as well as the owners in longevity.
Is that your project at right now when you're doing a PhD?
No, so my whole theory is the need for regulations due to interventions of interventions and for workforce for biohazard remediation industry.
Okay.
So looking at regulations, safety training, all of that, and developing regulations throughout the country to protect the workforce.
Right.
Because right now, as we know, 70-80% of the workforce of restoration, like mold, fire, water, all are immigrants. People very large.
Yeah.
So the problem is that the same thing was in asbestos world. Now thinking that here, people are going to get day laborers. People are going to do this to clean this up.
Is that the major workforce that you also have, or you look for trained?
Oh no, all my guys are almost full
trained.
time.
Yeah.
Okay.
I do, so on certain like a hoarding situation, we will call in a temp agency.
Right.
Okay.
But my there's different type of temp agencies. I have more of an environmental temp agency,
Okay.
which means all of them have 40-hour, all of them have certain type of level of training, but I pay more for that.
Okay.
Fair.
Okay, but so with us, we have our full-time, then I have my part-time, which are my firefighters. So I'm very unique. I've reached out to a lot of fire departments and bring them on because in New Jersey, they work 24 and they're off for 72.
Oh,
So for them, 72 hours, they can work for me.
You don't take interns?
I do take interns,
Okay.
but again, like my 17-year-old, my work studies.
Yeah.
The problem is it's inconsistent, and that's what hurts me. Oh, I could be living in a gigantic mansion probably right now if I really. Most companies will hire people part-time at like $45 an hour,
Yeah.
$50 an hour, but they only get called when there's a job.
Yeah.
So no other time. So of course, why are you going to pay for training? So with me,
So they're
my
not
guy,
retaining them for the
Yes.
salary, just
so
giving
my
them-
guys
yeah.
are base salaried.
Right.
So my guys are salaried on a base, which means they're working 40 hours a week no matter what.
Right.
So if they're not on a job, they're in a classroom.
Oh, that's very nice.
Yes. So if they're not, they're on the computer, they're learning. They're not just sitting around,
Right.
playing Monopoly. No, they're actually physically learning. And that's what I base. But that has hurt my profit because there's some weeks where we get one job.
Yeah.
Right.
Very rarely, but we get one job.
Yeah.
And no less, what seems to always happen, it happened like, I think it was like 2 weeks ago, and I was like, unbelievable. They worked through the day, and then all of a sudden at 5 o'clock at night, a job comes in.
Oh, no.
So all day, we're sitting there, we're doing learning, and then at 6, and then I'm like, overtime, go right ahead. Like now, go do the job. Now you get paid time and a half. Go do your job.
Yeah.
Lucky them.
Exactly. And I'm like, why does this? Oh, it happened like a whole week straight. Like every day,
Damn.
a job came in at 4 to 5 o'clock, and I'm like, seriously, can't you? 8 a.m. Call at 8. Call at 8. I would be fine. But they call at that time, and that was just
Yeah.
So they all made more money, but then and that's the difference.
Right.
I'm paying them for sitting at my office
Yeah.
doing coursework, but that's why I believe my guys are productive and my guys are some of the best in the country for that reason. I would even say that my 3 17-year-olds are probably more capable than 50% of the owners in this country that do crime scene cleanup. And they're 17. Just on how they've developed themselves in their education that I've provided them and that I've kind of steered on them, than 50% of the industry. And that's embarrassing, to say the least. And I probably know many people would say, yes, that's true. Until regulations.
Yeah, things gotta change.
Do you, in spite of it being, one last question before we jump into, even before it became famous in Hollywood and now people know about crime scene, do you get a lot of traction like job wise in this department, especially you are the one who's asking for certifications? Do people like deter away from working with you than other places where they don't have to have all these regulations?
It depends. I get a lot of like a lot of people applying, but then I'm like, this is what you're gonna have to do.
Right.
And they're deterrent.
Right.
People that have worked for other companies in the industry and like the industry do want to work with me.
Right.
Okay.
Like they're like, hold on,
Yeah.
That's what matters.
this is cool.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, we learn, and that's where I get most of my calls. Like me and this gentleman, John K, he's out of Iowa. He's a good friend of mine. We take in, like, I want to say, like, all the puppies, all the infants. Like whenever they have a question, we have a Facebook group that we oversee. It has like 1.8 thousand, 1.8 of crime scene cleaners. People who want to be in the industry that have, but we have to approve them. So you have to have somewhat of a knowledge. I get calls at like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. Scott, I'm on a job. I'm like, okay, what would you like? How do you do it?
Oh, you help them out?
They FaceTime me. Like, yeah, like it's embarrassing. And it's like, you should know this.
Right.
And the best was during COVID. So I have the TOMI system, you know, the 99s. So a lot of your federal work, a lot of your state work, that if they wanted to put on a show, and I'm going to use the term show, to have us come out and spray, we would come out and spray. Well, I had like 2 or 3 people said, they called me and they're like, look, we know you're busy. You have a lot of federal work. I'm like, yes. They're like, well, I took a 2, 3, 4 hour class and I went to Home Depot and bought a fogger. Can you subcontract me out? And I'm like,
come on.
Oh.
I'm like,
come on.
Okay. I'm like, what are you using in that fogger? I don't know. This chemical. I'm like, okay. So this is how we're gonna do this.
Jeez.
Give me your name, number, you know, and
Yeah.
That's common.
Yeah.
Like that is common. And if you think about COVID, on how much got, like, look at the school in Texas that got ripped off. They said it can stay on the surface for 90 days, which is not true. So
The real guess right there.
nobody knew. And like, I wouldn't take homes. Like, I would not. But residents got taken advantage of massively. Because people are like, oh, will you come into my house and spray? My husband got it. And I'm like looking at them, no, I'm not. Why? Because to be honest, chances of you already having it are probably likely.
Right.
Yeah.
You have an air conditioning unit, so most likely
It's been sucked. Yeah.
like I got bad news.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
contain it,
Yeah.
clean it, use soap and water. I mean, you're fine. You don't need me to come in and spray for
But they charged a lot of money to come and spray.
$2,000-$3,000.
Yeah.
$2,000 to $3,000 to.
We didn't do it, but I've heard.
Oh yeah,
Like,
$2,000 to
Like they come,
$3,000
like
to
the
do a
spray
house.
disinfectant and just leave.
Yep.
As
Which
if everything is
I
taken
didn't
care
know
of, but
people
it
was doing
doesn't.
that.
which means again, just spraying. No, you have to
Clean it up.
before you spray.
Yeah.
Or really, so it's again what we said, envelope compared to non-envelope and all this.
Yeah.
The thing about it is COVID, like I don't even want to get into details on this, but like just like any DNA or any type, it can live on the surface.
Sure.
Does
Yeah.
it, right? Like
Yes.
you can trace it for how long?
For God knows.
For God long. Same thing about any type of RNA or any type of thing. Doesn't mean it's infectious.
Yeah.
It
But
means that it can be
stays.
on the surface until you clean it off.
Yes.
So if it finds on a cruise ship after
Yeah.
23 days, doesn't mean it's
Yeah.
infectious. Means that the cruise should probably be cleaning better.
Yeah.
Like that's really same
Yeah.
thing. So when we look at that, people don't understand, is it infectious? Can you get infected from that virus at that given time? Most likely HIV, all of those envelope viruses that are designed to not survive outside of the body. So that's basically what it is. An envelope virus is a virus that cannot live outside. It needs its host. Because any type of the environment will destroy it. Soap will destroy it.
Right.
It's not. Now, non-envelope is something that it's a lot harder. Like it builds like a shell around it that you have to now penetrate it. That's why certain chemicals have to be used to destroy and penetrate that, to kind of break that down. So coronavirus, certain type of viruses that we deal with to inactivate them because you can't kill.
Yeah.
And that was the best. When people were like, I'm going to kill. I'm like, you're not killing anything because a virus is non-living. You have to deactivate it. So when we're deactivating it, it's the environment in itself should deactivate it within seconds, within minutes. So yes, is there a risk? Yes. It's normally when it becomes airborne, and the spread, it's within a short period of time that it's most contagious outside of the body.
Makes sense.
So you're going to get it within 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes. And the close contact proximity, what they were saying is because you're getting repeat. I'm sitting there talking to you. Like, yes, I'm going to give you more and more and more and more and more. You eventually, something's going to catch. Something's going to stick. So that's where that whole component happened. And that's where you saw this industry get,
Yeah.
oh my, like, not even the crime scene. It's during COVID. It was like the people that were doing what they were doing, spraying and doing this. I'm like sitting there like, somebody's going to get sick. Somebody's not going to know, like, what's going on. And then, like, even when we spray in a house, we have the house, when we spray peroxide or we spray chlorine dioxide, we give them an SDS sheet, so safety data sheet, and we explain to them what it is that we're spraying in the house. We're not going to say, hey, we're going to spray this and that's it. No.
Yeah.
How many daycares, how many hospitals were spraying stuff that nobody knew what they were spraying?
Right.
Very true. They might be just spraying. I don't know.
Exactly.
Who knows?
And then what's the what was the exposure rate to
Just steam.
to the kids or
God
to
knows.
whoever was in that house?
God knows.
So that's where, like, this industry, this is why it is so underregulated, and it's scary, because when I'm looking at this with my doctorate and I'm talking to, I could sit here and say, okay, let's just focus on the workforce. Okay.
Yeah.
Then I can say, well, let's talk about the homeowner. Let's talk about the general public. Let's talk about, because since it's not regulated at all, what happens is there's multiple
Yeah.
pathways you can take to see exposure. Until
True.
Georgia passed the law, of course California has a law. California has a law for everything. So it really does. So they actually have the Waste and Trauma Act, which regulates crime scene cleanup companies. However, I know a friend of mine that has his dog registered as a crime scene cleanup.
How nice.
Yes.
Can just snoot it and understand as to what is in there.
Uh-huh.
The crime scene.
So
Lick it out.
What?
yes, because even though there's a registration, there's no due diligence on the registration.
Oh
So
my
they
God.
they don't do anything. Georgia came out with one a few years ago, which is great, but it's just a registration. So there's no training requirements. It says you have to have training. That's it.
Well.
So guess what? I have training. High five.
Yeah.
But there's nothing that talks about that. So talk a little bit about my regulation and kind of to my own horn. And this kind of revolves. So my training would require everybody who does the work to be certified
Okay.
through at least a 16-hour course. The owners have to be federally background checked, so they know, and they have to be trained as well as when you register, all the funds that are done for a registration, half goes to the VCC to help, instead of just victims, but actually helps people who cannot afford it.
Right.
So financial aspect of that. So then that helps that. Now, and another thing is registration the Department of Health will create a list. That list then will be given out to every victim or anybody who needs a service. So now, what you were saying, who do I call? The police department will not be responsible anymore. They're going to say, here's a list. You can go to the Department of Health, has a list.
Yeah.
These are people that are certified who are trained to do it. Now, if you complain, if someone tries to rip you off, now you have recourse. You can go to the state and said, this company ripped me off.
Right.
Now the state can investigate them.
Yes.
So guess what? Now you're protected. Okay. Now the VCC, say Philadelphia, it's 500. With doing a program like this, raise the 500 to 1,500 from the fees are collected. Okay. With that now, you're now giving at least a huge population in Philadelphia the resources now to get help.
Yes.
Right.
And now city officials, jails, police stations, cop cars, anyone that needs our services now also have a list to follow. So cop cars, when, like I said, I got called the other night, last night at 3:30. Say a cop car can range $300, $400, $500 to clean it. Some companies are charging $2,000. And the police departments are paying for that. So that goes into the budget. So and I'm not trying to control the pricing.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm trying to make it fair
for everyone.
so people do not get
Ripped off.
Quadruple pricing.
Yeah, exactly. And then their training is even lackadaisical, and they're just sending everybody. Department I just took over.
Sending dogs.
Yeah. Basically, sending dogs.
Sending bloodhounds.
That was awesome. I gotta use that one. Where's the bloodhounds? Let's go. yeah, you know, I always joke around. I say people are dying to meet me, like, or they're dying to work with me. And everyone's like, Scott, seriously? I'm like, at one, so after hours, this is a little bit of sick humor, but I had Another One Bites the Dust as my ringtone.
Oh.
So when my ringtone would go off, it's like Another One Bites the Dust. And everyone's like,
It's all
Scott.
sarcastic people,
Yes,
not those,
yes,
those
no,
kind of
yes,
people.
yes. No, it
We
was,
find humor in
yes.
sad parts sometimes.
unfortunately, you have, like,
Yeah.
in what we do, you have to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, the emotional switch
It gets
has to be
sucked,
there.
yeah. You
Right,
get
right,
sucked in.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, and that's hard to explain to my technicians because on job sites, we built a family.
Yeah.
So they'll try to joke around on job sites. And when family's around, I'm like,
No joke.
no
Of
joke.
course not.
They
Yeah,
won't
yeah,
get
yeah.
no,
Yeah.
no.
And I, even with videotaping and everything, I'm like, guys, when we're on job sites, it should be to the point serious.
Mm-hmm.
But then I'm like, a little bit, you kind of have to lighten the mood.
Yeah.
Like, hey, how did the Mets play? Hey, how did this?
Yeah.
You try to engage that so at least it's not, oh, we're scrubbing up this blood again. So you need some type of,
Yeah.
but to mimic, to understand that, not everybody will be like,
Yeah.
you know, but, you know, and that's why a lot of news shows or a lot of shows are trying to develop around crime scene cleanup to do shows because they think it's engaging.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Nah.
no, like, I'm not going to be like, like, I did do a podcast not too long ago that's coming out, and they followed me on the job site.
Mm.
And I talked them through a job, and we explained it. And that was interesting. But I said, no names, you cannot do this. Like, a lot of people don't understand, there's still a level of privacy.
Yeah.
But your privacy dies when you die.
Yeah.
Most people don't know that.
Yeah.
Like, there's no recourse for when you die,
It's done.
it's done. You have no more privacy. I wish a law would come up and say that there has to be a level of privacy, because then people who live stream these,
Yeah. Yeah.
This is ridiculous.
yeah, and it baffles me.
Yeah.
It absolutely baffles me. Well, I could talk, like I said, I could talk ages on this topic,
No,
but
yeah,
it's
crazy.
you know, the industry in itself is great.
Yeah.
We need it.
Mm-hmm.
Making it a career choice and making it actually a trade, like a recognized trade, would be huge.
Right.
You know, and it's in its baby stages right now, but with development, with everything, and that's a reason why I did get why I'm achieving my doctorate,
Yeah.
is because when you don't have that, when you have the boots on the ground and you have your science and you have your education, there's that big middle gap.
Gap. Yes.
No matter whoever says it, there's a
Yeah.
gap.
Yes.
Okay, I've done, and it really hit a couple years ago at the International Decontamination Conference of the EPA puts on. We had all these great presentations, all of them. None of them were realistic. None of them were realistic.
That's always the issue. We talk about the bigger picture, but the implementation is always like
Not
lost.
gonna happen.
Yeah,
like I'm
yeah.
saying, they're not gonna happen.
Yeah.
Like
So I'm like,
Philadelphia
feasible.
putting water on like crime. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Hosting it.
yeah,
Sorry, Philly. I love Philly, but
but you're right.
Wow.
Like the pilot program was phenomenal,
Yeah.
but the implementation of it, you
Yeah.
just totally.
Yeah.
So I took over a housing authority, and I won't bring up names, but I took over one. It was the first time it was bidded out in like 25 years. And they said there was a bid prior, and I said, no, there wasn't, because I've been wanting this for some time. It came out. And I remember the first bidding meeting, like where all the companies come.
Mm-hmm.
And I start asking questions, and they're like, and I'm like, you're procurement, right? They're like, yes. I'm like, okay, shouldn't you know this? We're gonna put this meeting on hold. We got to find out all this information, and so then they hold another one, and then they hold another one. So it was like 3-4 bid meetings prior to finally being able to bid it. And I bid it out, and I was like, okay, should I go cheap? Should I go high? Like, I want this contract.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay. So I thought I did good. The company that had it for 25 years were 3 times the amount of me. And they've been doing it for 25 years. 3 times the amount of my bid. And I'm still making a
Good money.
30%,
Right.
30%,
Yeah.
Sure.
30%. And I'm like sitting there like, And he was I'm like,
There's 500% profit in every job they do.
I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
So then I found out the company that was doing it,
Yeah.
the owner didn't even live in the States, lived outside and subbed it out
Ridiculous.
to people that didn't even do it.
Ridiculous.
So I got a call one day from one of his employees saying, hi, you know, I heard you just got this contract. I said, yeah, let's meet me in person. I said, what type of training? He said, not. He's like, this is what we got told to do. So we did it. And I'm like, okay. And he was an older guy, nice guy. But I'm like, I'm not changing this guy's ways.
Yeah.
I'm like, he's already set in his ways.
Right.
So I didn't bring him on, but I'm like, and I remember taking that call, and my secretary, which is my cousin, my office, it's true, family business.
Hey.
She's not my secretary, but she's like, she oversees all my admin work. She's phenomenal. But she sat in that, and she was bad. She's like, Scott, really? I'm like, yeah. And they were hitting a lot of money per job. And I'm like,
Nothing.
wow. I'm like, this is just embarrassing. And the police station I just got back a large department, doing all the cop cars. Same thing. They hired a company. The company went out of business, but the owner kept the one who was doing that and just 1099'd him and just said, hey, look. And I talked to this guy. I felt so bad for him. Like, he's like, I have no training. He's like, I use all my personal stuff, all my, I have to go to Home Depot, buy this. And I'm like, you're not a 1099 employee then. You're a W-2. He's like, no, they just 1099 me. I'm like, it's not allowed.
The contract, yeah.
I'm like, that's not allowed. And he's like, well, and I'm like, okay, I'm done. Like, and I'm not bad mouthing you know,
Right.
because trust me,
Yeah,
there
yeah.
are great companies out there.
Yeah.
There are companies that probably are better than me. There are companies that are where I am. It's just as an industry as a whole,
Yeah, needs regulations. Yeah.
beyond regulations,
Yeah.
need a full facelift
Yeah.
on how we do
180,
business.
yeah.
Like, and the standards are coming,
Yeah.
but they're not being overseen by the government. So I've reached out to, in Pennsylvania, I would say 20, 30 representatives or senators. Oh, just not one or two of them were like, okay, email us and we'll look into it. Most of them were like, oh, I'm not interested in this because it's not something, it happens every day. It's needed every day, but it's not in the media every day.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
School shootings, everything are,
Yeah.
yes.
They just started the lead testing in Philly. Like, it's an important thing now. Like, apartments more than 10 years or 20 years of age, they go and do lead testing, but the people are doing it are not certified. They don't know where to collect the samples from. You just test a few places, or lead free, move on. That's how
the
it
thing,
is.
yeah.
Like, something very similar that they don't care unless.
Exactly. And
Yeah,
that's
it's big media stuff.
being more reactive,
Yeah,
being reactive
yeah.
than proactive.
Yeah.
True.
Instead of saying, okay, this is what's going to happen. And this is why, you know, when we look at crime scene cleanup, biorecovery world, let's be proactive.
Yeah.
And let's say, here we go. Besides, when something hits the fan, us going, who's trained, and then hiring somebody that's
Yeah.
has no, you know, and let's benefit that. Look, I'm not a big regulation guy. I'm not. Like, I'm not a big government guy. However, I believe there's certain cases that have to be oversaw.
Right.
Of course.
And when it deals with public health, when it deals with a vulnerable population, when it deals with re-victimization, that's something we address.
Right.
And, you know, if you can address those, we're helping the workforce. We're helping the family that is going through what would be the worst
Yeah.
situation you can imagine.
True.
And everything that we can talk about right now, for example, and I'm just going to hit up a few scenes or situations. Family member that you've been trying to reach your mother for the last week, and you walk in and she died.
Yeah.
You live out of state, you couldn't get there. You were calling friends, you just couldn't get in contact. She died. There's blood all over.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? Okay. You walk in and you find your son hung or shot himself. What do you do? All of these scenarios, you have no idea how you're going to react. You have no idea what you're going to do. But the mere fact of it is when it comes to the cleanup process, that is a process you're going to need.
Yeah.
That is a big part to get over your hump because it comes with structural damage. Okay. You have to take up floors. You might sometimes have to take up floors.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
remove carpets. You're gonna have to do stuff that you're not trained
to do.
to do, any know-how, or you're just
Not
not.
in the capacity to
Yeah.
do it. Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
so imagine that moment in anybody, in anyone who's watching this or listening. At that moment, at that given time, what are you gonna do? You're gonna cry. You're gonna go on Google. You're gonna call the first person, and you're just gonna pray that they don't take advantage of it.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But if we're able to now help that,
Please call Scott.
No. Well, yes, anywhere in the U.S., I'll find somebody for you. Surprisingly not, I'm actually dealing with the case in California right now.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
So please call him.
Yes, no, somebody called me and said they're in Jersey and they had an uncle that died in California.
True.
So I said, look, I know a company, called the company, and the company's doing a great job, but not too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The customer service is good, but not like to what.
Yeah.
I
You would
would-
expect.
yeah.
Yeah.
for sure.
Not mine, not mine.
Right.
But I mean, each company it's its own.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
and they're a great company that is doing the job like phenomenal. But they've been calling me, and I'm like, okay, I'm here. They're like, Scott, I'm so sorry we're calling you again. I'm like, no big deal. I got nothing to do. Why? I'm like knee deep in blood. I'm like, I can pick up this call. But that's
Yeah.
like really what it comes down to. And in our industry, a lot of people don't look at what happens after you guys come in.
No, they don't.
That's very true.
They don't. Yeah. That's where it ends.
We wasn't
for
thinking
a lot
about
of people. Yeah.
Exactly, because, and I laugh because shootings.
Mhm.
Your main, not yours, but first responders'
Yes.
first thing is to rescue, protect.
Right.
Make sure everyone survives the shooting. Okay, so they don't care if they put blood and track blood all over. They just don't care.
Right.
Okay, now you come in. Now you're gonna put your fingerprint dust everywhere, all over. Okay, who's cleaning that up?
Yeah.
True.
And trust me, most forensics are not
Trained
light.
to- yeah.
Well, not even. I'm saying light on fingerprint dust. Most
really?
people. Oh yeah,
Just pray.
yeah. Like I feel like I've walked into scenes where it's like the whole wall is black,
Oh my
and I'm
God.
like, there's no way that corner on that ceiling, 20 feet high, has a fingerprint. There's no way. Like no way. Like just none.
It's good they're doing their jobs.
Oh, it's great.
Whatever.
But there's not fingerprints all the way up there.
Facts.
I mean, seriously, were they slam dunking something? Like, not going to be that high. And it's a pain in the butt
Yeah,
to get
it
rid
is.
of.
It is.
Like, to clean all of
That
that?
has to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, sometimes I'm like, just strip down the wall and put a wall back up. It's easier. It really easier is
Yeah.
to take down. But a lot of people don't think that.
Yeah.
So when I look at the world of criminal justice and homicides and, death, we are such a huge part of it.
Mm-hmm.
But so neglected.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
So neglected. Nobody knows we exist.
Yes.
And it would be nice to be.
I
don't
think
want
it's
to say
just taken
recognized,
for
but-
granted that, oh, well,
Yes.
once they are gone, it's done.
Right,
But by who, how much, when, no clue.
So now
Very
when you
true.
guys go in, you
Yes.
can be like, "Ah, crud. I don't want to really do this because I know this is going to make them clean it up more.
There you go.
Oh, I
But
know.
still collect the evidence.
Yeah, still collect it, but I
Do
know
it
that's going
later.
to cost like $2,000 right there.
Yeah.
But yeah, unfortunately that's the case.
Yes. Very true.
Yeah, and even I really wish even cities would hire contractors to really help those that can't afford it,
Mm-hmm.
or that can't. And we've been covered. There was 2 jobs at the city that we got called in because it was high profile. They covered the cost.
Oh, true.
They're like, we're going to cover this
Yeah.
cost.
That's
Don't worry about it. One was a very high profile murder last year.
Mm.
A kid and a mother was involved. And the police department said, just, we're taking out of the budget. Just
Okay.
take
Oh.
care of it. And then another one was a mall shooting where,
Mm.
and it was funny because in the mall shooting, we get called in from the Department of Health in the area saying, Scott, we want your company, and then here comes the mall's cleaning company with a mop bucket. And they come in and they're like, we're here. And I'm like,
To do what?
that's basically what I said.
Good water and
Yeah,
clean,
Yeah,
man.
and that's
Come
what the
on,
Department
that's
of-
how you clean.
That's what the Department of Health said to them. And their technicians are like, they're like, is that chemical? What's that? They're reading the
Lysol.
label like, I think this will do
This
it.
is a Windex.
And I'm like sitting there like, do you guys have any training? I'm like, they're like, no, we don't say no. It's a client. Can't say no. And I'm like, you're right. So Department of Health and the police department was like, we'll cover this cost. Like, please, Scott, just handle this cleanup. So what did they do? They went on the other side of the area and laid down, so they still billed the client while we did all the
Oh,
cleaning.
really?
So I videotaped them. I'm videotaping them sitting there, and I send it to the corporate office, and I'm like, they're like, well, the cleaning company, they wanted us to be there, so we're billing for it. And I'm like,
I'm coming out of your pockets.
exactly.
Yeah.
But this is what
It's going on.
Mhm.
Yeah.
How new this, or how neglected the field is for
Yeah.
sure.
yeah,
Very
it's
interesting.
completely neglected.
Yeah.
And if we could come onto that table and be a part, like when you look at, say, a biological attack, or if you say anything about what you guys, if we can be put into that,
In that
Plan.
bracket, yeah.
in that plan, how much easier. So during a
Right.
murder, every step. You bring in the prosecutor's office, you bring in detectives, you bring in forensics. You know the steps of how a scene's going to take place most of the time, I would think, right?
It's
No.
not even in the educational system for crime, like forensics. We don't learn about this.
But like you have steps, protocols on how to follow,
Right.
right?
Sure,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
So-
but it ends at collecting the sample.
Yes.
Yeah, for us.
So what
sure.
I'm saying is there's a bigger
Yes.
plan. So why not
Yes.
incorporate that into
Everything
that
Yes,
plan?
until
that's what
it's
I'm
fully
saying. We don't
finished.
even
A
have it.
to Z,
Yeah.
all encompass, like
Agreed.
tabletop of this is what we're gonna do if this happens, then it happens. We've never ever, once the government stops and it goes into private sector, that's where it stops. It doesn't go past that.
Are there any schools that teaches?
No, even emergency response. When you look at emergency response and everything, once the government clears, it's now private sector. And once the private sector comes in,
Then they don't. Yeah.
the government's out of it.
Out of it.
Different, yeah.
Yeah. So now when the government needs the private sector, They just-
Oh,
pull up the old Rolodex or Yellow Book and just say, okay, eeny, meeny, miny,
First
mo.
one.
Yeah.
First one.
Cleaners.
Yep.
Yeah.
Who does it? Yeah, when Ebola, the DEP in New Jersey, they said they went through like 26, 27 calls until they found like 2 or 3 companies that actually did it. Nobody else, all the crime scene cleanup companies wouldn't touch Ebola. And I'm like, why not?
They're
Like,
not
it's
trained,
what we
yeah.
do.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, you should suspect every job we do could be that
Could be
bad.
Yeah.
But no. Only 3 or 4 were actually.
Very interesting. Very sad. Do you want to ask the last question?
Oh, okay, yeah. So what advice do you give somebody who's maybe trying to go into the field of crime scene, like biohazard remediation?
Oh, this is a good one. One of my biggest things that I said is if you're going to do it and you're going to make it a career, make it a career.
Okay.
Don't make it a hobby.
Right.
Okay, don't think you're going to go in there. You have to invest your time. And don't think the investment of time is just marketing to get the jobs. It's marketing yourself to make sure that you are able to handle jobs, that you have to be one of the best in the industry. And I'm not saying you're going to be the best jumping into it, but by going out and learning, by going out and saying, if I'm not physically on a job site, I'm in my books learning. I'm not home waiting for that call. I'm not watching reruns of, How I Met Your Mother or Friends or all the. No, you are physically doing your job and learning to get better. And if you can do that, that's the biggest advice. Because when I jumped into this, after I left the government and I jumped into this, that's what I did. I said, Dad, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this right. And when I do this right, I'm gonna change the industry. And my dad said, yeah, go for it, son. Like kind of that smart aleck. Yeah, it's not going to happen. But I did. And I started researching and I started really engaging myself in the conversations. And it's not just being a yes man. It's saying, okay, if this is what it is, why isn't it better? Why aren't we doing it better? I don't want to hear it is what it is. We have had instructors throughout time that taught crime scene cleanup with no formal education, which, you know what? They taught on what they know.
Right.
Okay. They've made mistakes, which you do not ever devalue field work.
Right.
Right.
Field work is key on understanding.
Absolutely.
But now bringing education into that and understanding, going into great detail on why we do things, how we do it. There's a reason behind the madness.
Right.
Right.
That's important to know. And if you want to be successful in this industry, you need to know that. Because at the end of the day, yes, you're not going to get the simple shotgun suicide. You might not get that because you don't have that money in Google. But you'll get enough respect within the industry
Right.
that you'll start getting referrals.
Mm.
Most of my work is referred to me by other clients because they trust us.
Right.
It's not me spending $1 million on Google.
Yeah.
It's not. It's me government contracts. It's me being who is the best in tri-state area. Oh, you got to call this company.
Right.
Because I don't market it that much. Like I have a nice website. Yeah, I spend money. But not like some of these bigger companies.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
You know, and bigger restoration companies that don't do blood, say they do blood, but they sub it out. They just sub me out.
Yeah.
And that's how you make it. That's my advice. Is if you're going to come into this, come into the industry. Don't come into the industry as a hobby, like I'm going to take 2 hours. Really engulf yourself with the atmosphere, with the industry. Get to know the players, get to know everything, and really do your due diligence. Understand that you're going to sacrifice money.
Right.
Yeah.
There's so many people that start and within 5 years they fail. Why? Because they think they're going to get 20, 40, 50, 60, 70 jobs the first year.
They can't.
No, they're going to get
Maybe
2.
1 or 2. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
2, maybe 3. But I'll tell you right now, if you come in and you believe in yourself and you just continue to develop, a company like me, if I get a job in California, I'm going to say, you know what? I'm going to give this guy a shot.
Mm-hmm.
He's been active, he's been engaging, he's been networking. I'm going to give him a shot because I think. So now you get 20 companies across the country that gets a job in California.
Yeah.
Give it to him because he's engaging.
Right.
He's willing to learn. He wants to change the industry for the better. So guess what? Now he gets 20 jobs the second year. That's how you do it.
Mm-hmm.
You can throw all the money in your world in internet. Guess what? You're going to get jobs.
Mm-hmm.
But in 5 years when you're struggling,
Yeah.
because
It's not good word.
it's
Yeah.
yeah, it's not. You need to build yourself, and going into a police station, going into a funeral home and saying, hi, here's my business card.
It's not the right time.
Yeah.
You know what? Great. I do that too. But guess what? If it's me versus you, let's go head to head. I'm going to destroy you every single time.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's not me being mean. It's just you need to make sure you know your stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you can design that, that is my greatest advice, is just believe in education.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need a doctorate. You don't need a master's. Fine.
Mm-hmm.
But you need to have a willingness to learn
The job. Yeah.
the job and everything around it.
Yeah.
And if you can do that, you will be very successful in this industry. Because even if you don't make it as a business owner, you'll make it as a very good project manager or somebody that's making 150,000 leading a company.
Yeah.
And that's the difference.
Very true. Amen.
Because some business owners have money.
Yeah.
Right.
Like realistically, they have especially franchises because they've invested $200,000-300,000 into owning a franchise.
Yeah.
So if they have a good lead, they will be willing to pay you the $100,000 to kind of.
Mm.
So if you fail
Sure.
as that business owner, at least if you're engaged enough in the industry with the networking,
You're on your own.
you can be very successful
Yeah.
and change the industry. Put your own mark on it.
Agreed.
Don't sit there and just be like,
Go
I'm
with the
gonna.
flow.
Yeah, you know how. Look, I'm 39 now. The last 10 years have been very tough on me.
Yeah.
Of the names I was called through people in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
Not so nice. A lot of them, though, came from those 60, 70 years of age and above.
Yeah.
My dad had one of them because I questioned everything.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? I was a typical kid in a car going for a lawyer. Are we there yet? Are we there yet? I'm
Right.
sitting there like, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? Why aren't we doing it this way? And my dad was like, Scott, seriously, just stop.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to know. I want to know. And then all of a sudden, after that job, came back with a easier way to do it or a safer way to do it. And he's like, I never thought about that. I was like, I told you so. I told you so.
Yeah.
Now you know why I asked. So don't become stagnant
Right.
in the industry. Continue to learn, and you will be the most successful and make it a career. If you can make it a career, you're good. Don't make it a hobby.
Yeah.
And I said that multiple times.
Mhm.
50 jobs or less a year is a hobby. I mean, I do more than 50 Legos a year.
Yeah.
It's a hobby. I'm not
Yeah.
going to be a builder,
Yeah.
Lego master. But although that show is really cool. Just saying, Lego Masters on the TV is awesome. But I'm not.
Yeah.
You know,
Fair.
I do it for a hobby. But for crime scene, I'm passionate about it. I love it. I'm engaged. I'm here to change the industry. And with help, with podcasts like this,
Yeah.
with meeting with people, hopefully we pull it back where now you guys at your next detective or at your next scene or your next scene, when you see a family crying,
Yeah.
you're going to be able to say, you know what, there's a list.
Yes.
Right.
You know, there's a list I know
Very
about
true.
that I'm going to be able to give this family
Yeah.
where they're not going to have to clean this up.
Yeah.
Or Massachusetts, I think they do like $2,000, $3,000 for their VCC.
good.
I would have to look in my article.
Mhm.
But and I'll look before I leave. But you could say, hey, look, this is a crime, because if you're there, it's most likely a crime.
Right.
There's a crime. Did you reach out to VCC? And all the detectives are going to look at you and they're going to be like, what are you talking about? You're going to say, well, maybe you should know your job. There is a program that will give
True.
these people money to get this cleaned up.
Yeah.
Right.
All my fingerprint, the mess I'm making,
Someone needs to clean
someone
it up.
needs to
Right.
clean it up.
Yeah.
I don't want these people to be mad at me.
Yeah.
And think about it. That's a small step where now you might look at a family come up to you and say thank you.
Right.
Very nice.
Like, and it makes you feel warm and fuzzy inside.
No.
Very true.
As it should. As it should.
Thank you so much.
Thank
that was
you.
amazing.
That was great, man.
Oh my
That
god.
was tons of information. Sorry, we kept interrupting you and asking you what this and that was, but we don't
Oh
need
no,
to.
hey,
It was-
trust me, if we have a 10-hour episode 1 to 10, 15, we can talk about but
Fair enough.
I'm always available. Any of your viewers, you guys, I'm always willing to talk about this. I talk a lot. My wife tells me.
No, we'll share your website and your email address.
Of course.
Please
Yeah,
contact
yeah.
Scott.
Absolutely.
My biggest is the American Bio Recovery Association is the nonprofit. It's what I belong to. I'm the educational chair. They do hold the high standards.
Okay.
We're a certifying body, which means when I kind of took over the education, I took away the instructors. I said no, conflict of interest. So for the American Bio Recovery Association, either you know it or you don't. So when you take the test, if you don't know it, you fail.
Right.
We have over a 50 to 60% failure rate.
Oh,
Of
nice.
People thinking, oh, we know
Which
this.
is good.
Yeah, that's good. I don't
Yeah.
want 100% pass
Yeah,
rate.
I know.
yeah.
But
We want
That's-
people to fail so they know
exactly,
they don't know.
so they know,
Right.
so they get
True,
better.
true,
But
true.
we do have certified firms with the American Bio Recovery Association. So at least with them firms, like it's a nonprofit, so we have an ethic code. So if somebody violates that, there's some recourse in them within the association.
Oh, nice.
So like that helps a lot. But again, it's like we only like 55, 60 people, companies
true.
strong. So it's not like, because again, you know, a lot of, you have to be a firm, you have to have a certified tech, which means somebody has to pass the test.
Yes.
And then you have the supervisor test and master test. And master test, right now, I think we have a 100% fail rate. No, 99 or 98% fail rate. Nobody can pass it. We have doctors failing it all the time. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's so neat.
Hence why we only have 18.
Love it.
Yes.
I'm like shocked, but happy.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I know.
You're like, hold on, can I apply to take that test just to see?
That's what I was thinking in my head. I'm
I'll
like,
get
I
it.
wanna do-
I'll get it for you, let you take it and be like,
Oh well.
next episode, you'll be like, remember the podcast we did? Yeah, do not take that test.
Horrible. The dog beat us.
That's exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. The hound, the
bloodhound.
bloodhounds.
Blondehound got 100 on that test.
Jesus.
For sure, they'll pass it. Oh
But,
my god. Okay.
All right,
Do you want
man.
to wrap it up?
That was great.
Okay,
And
awesome.
we'll put everything we need to put in the bio when we put up on YouTube and Instagram and everybody. Scott Vogel. That was an amazing episode. Thank you so
Thank
so much.
Thank you.
That was amazing. I know you guys learned something today. I know you guys learned something today. And thank you.
Awesome.